Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is the beginning of Season 2. It's part 25 of the series. If you did miss the last episode, we had a thrilling last lap battle with Oscar Piastri and claimed victory for the final race of the season. The champion, Max Verstappen, he took it to the final step of the podium to round out the season, claiming a third position. And in the end, he closed out the season with a 68-point victory over Lando Norris. Myself, in the end, only 30 points behind Lando for third position. Hayes ended up ninth, 39 points behind George Russell, and Red Bull won the Constructors' Championship with that battle they had going to the final round, and it was only by 9 points to McLaren. And we also clinched third away from Ferrari in the Constructors. We got that one done by only 10 points as well, so very close between the two constructor battles. And at the end of our season really picked up in the second half once we had a really good package underneath us. The season started with a very changeable conditions at Albert Park in Australia, where we saw Jack Doohan claim victory in his first full-time debut for Alpine at his home Grand Prix. Unfortunately for Jack, he would only cross the line once more in the points for the remainder of the season. In that race, we were on for a second place on debut until a puncture in the closing stages ended that for ourselves, and we didn't have to wait long for our first points, which came in at China along with our first pole position. All eyes were between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris for the championship, though, until Max did just normal Max things actually, and he won 7 Grand Prix in a row, giving him a championship lead that, even with the consistency that Lando showed during the season, he could not bridge that gap that Max managed to get during those 7 races. And the last portion of the season was all Apex GP, as we won 5 of the last 6 races, and that will round out season 1. And we're going to jump straight into the contract performance, where we are well and truly above where we needed to be, getting up to driver rating 87 by the end. And we're going to jump straight into the team select that we have. We've got a few options actually. So we can start at Apex GP, which is currently the fastest on paper. And if I want to create a legacy with this team, we have created a very good card to try and go and fight for a championship if we were to have the consistency we had at the end of last season. Red Bull also showing an interest for our services. They are second fastest car, and if we were to sign, it's going to be a 45% recognition against Max Verstappen, which is honestly more than I was expecting, since the team is built around Max. And another team is McLaren, who had a great season, finishing second in the Constructors and are the third fastest car. And I would have a slightly better driver recognition, but I would be replacing Oscar Piastri, making me teammates with Lando Norris, and this would give the British squad an all-British driver lineup for the 2026 season. The final team that we have interested in us is Ferrari, and they had a very quiet season, a couple of wins, and in the last race lost out to Apex GP, losing third in the Constructors' Championship. And signing with them would give me the same driver recognition that McLaren is offering. And after only 1 season, Lewis Hamilton would be out of the Scarlet Red Ferraris. But I already knew who I wanted to sign with. And despite how bad the season, or good the season, was going to go, and that was to stay with Apex GP and do a second season with the team. We had a fantastic opening season, and I'm hoping we can continue this form we have and hit the ground running and make a good season and aim for a top 2 or even a constructor win. I feel like that could be on the cards if all goes to plan. And as we now jump straight into the meeting here with Elena, with the representatives from Apex GP, we're going to stick with the recommended 89 driver rating, because there's only a 1% difference in our contract terms, and I would rather play it safe. We saw how fragile the rating system is when you have a slightly subpar performance, even if it was out of your control, being like an engine failure. We're also going to leave it at a 1-season contract, just to leave the door open for Season 3. And that is going to be our new contract signed on the dotted lines. We will be driving for Apex GP in Season 2, and we'll be alongside Sonny Hayes once more. It's an unchanged driver lineup and an unchanged car for the new season. And we're going to take a look at our end of season statistics, and we ended with 6 wins, way more than I was expecting, 5 pole positions, 324 points in the championship, and on our first attempt finished third in the championship. And now the all-important calendar for this season, we're going to drop it down to a 10-round season. I completed the full 24 race calendar in season 1, and this time just to try and get through a few seasons before next year's game comes out. We're going to drop it down to 10 rounds for a season, and we're going to start off in Australia, the land down under, and that's where we'll kick it off in Melbourne around Albert Park. And then it's off to Miami, to Spain, Austria, Belgium, Italy, Singapore, USA, Mexico, and Abu Dhabi to finish off the season. I think we've got a very good mixture here of street circuits. Obviously Australia, Singapore, street circuits, Miami, street circuit, and then you've got the classic tracks, Spain, Austria, Belgium, Italy. Then we're going to go to like some more tracks that we had success at in last season, the USA. We've got Redemption coming up in Mexico, so that will be good to try and get back there, and then keeping it simple with the season finale. And now let's go into what we're all waiting for at this start of this episode, and that is the driver lineup for this new season and what has changed in all of the teams. So starting with the Racing Bulls Ford team. After a very disappointing season in 2025, the team has not made any changes in driver lineup, keeping their two rookie drivers Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar. Keeping the same drivers and same livery means there's only one massive task ahead of them, being the new engine that has been provided by Ford. They'll be looking this season to finish better than last and also score more than the measly 7 points they did last season. And moving on to a whole new team, Audi Sport enters the grid. Kick Sauber is no more, and the long-awaited entry for Audi is here, running their red and silver livery, keeping it simple for their first season in the sport. No expectations for them as they learn the ropes of Formula 1 with their drivers. They have the experience of Nico Hülkenberg and the youth of Gabriel Bortoleto to take them to hopefully a midfield position this season. And then it is Haas Toyota. The partnership between Toyota and Haas has only strengthened during the off-season, with the team now known as Haas Toyota, with the GR branding more pronounced on delivery, taking up the engine cover, but they still have the sponsorship from MoneyGram, which is still found on the front wing. They too also keep an unchanged driver lineup of Esteban Ocon and Oliver Behrman into 2026. And then it's Williams, the first team to go completely unchanged for 2026 season is Williams. They had a fairly decent 2025 and trying to keep momentum going have elected to keep both Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz in the car with the same Atlassian livery. Now, it's to Alpine Mercedes. Alpine have had a big year ahead of them. With the closure of the Renault engine program, they found themselves looking for a new engine supply to keep them going. This year, they will be running the Mercedes power unit, and with the task of learning this new engine, kept a relatively unchanged livery. One of the changes to the livery being the removal of the Renault logos, and instead replaced with the Mercedes AMG logo on the engine cover. But this is going to be the first team we talk about with a driver change. After a fairly poor 2025 season, Lance Stroll has been given the boot from Aston Martin team and has found his feet back in pink at Alpine Mercedes for the 2026 season. And so who is going to be filling the shoes of Stroll at Aston Martin Honda? Another team-changing power unit is Aston Martin as they form a partnership with Honda and become Aston Martin Honda for 2026. Fernando Alonso will lead the team, hopefully taking on some success that Red Bull have found with the Honda power unit, and also with the help of Adrian Newey, who now is full-time hands-on with this year's car. To fill the shoes of the departing Lance Stroll is rookie Paul Aron getting the promotion from Formula 2. New engine and new driver is going to be a big season for Aston Martin Honda. Then it's to Mercedes. Last season was one of the worst for recent years that Mercedes have had, from crashes, early qualifying exits, and a lack of pace. It was a season to forget for Mercedes. They go into 2026 feeling refreshed and ready to improve and take advantage of other teams having lots of changes and things to learn by going into this year completely unchanged. Same car, same drivers, with George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Then it's to Ferrari. The fans hated it, and it's gone. The Ferrari is back to being all red, and it's now a glossy red, and they have dropped the matte red and the white. With a change of livery, Ferrari have kept their solid lineup, proven future world champion Charles Leclerc and 7-time champion it is Lewis Hamilton to try and take Ferrari to a Constructors' Championship. Ferrari will want redemption this season after having a bad Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and losing third in the Constructors at the last race of the season. Then it is to McLaren. going into 2026, there is a lot McLaren will want. The Drivers' Championship battle went to the final race. Lando Norris lost out to Max Verstappen and was not able to claim his first world title. The Constructors' Championship battle with Red Bull also went to the final race, which McLaren also lost out on. They will be wanting to put that season behind them and focus on trying to go that one better and get the Drivers' and Constructors' World Championships. They go into 2026 retaining both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri as they try again to get that championship in an unchanged car. Then it is now to the final team that we'll talk about, Red Bull Ford. The reigning Constructors have a big season ahead of them. They've got a new looking car with Ford coming on board as the engine supply to create Red Bull Ford, and they not only have a new car and engine supply, it's a new driver lineup too. Max Verstappen will lead the team into hopefully another Constructors' Championship and even try and go for his 6th world title. Last season, Yuki Tsunoda became a race winner and towards the end of the season became a regular podium getter. Unfortunately for Yuki, that was not enough. The rumours have turned true and they have signed Franco Colapinto to drive for them after being impressed by his performance in the Williams at the end of the 2024 season. Franco will drive his first full-time season in Formula 1 with the expectation he can not only perform better than Yuki Tsunoda in this car, but also continue the success and help take this team to another world title. And now that we've spoken about all the teams, it's now to get into the little nitty-gritty things before we start this new season. We're going to take a look at the powertrain and taking a look at the minor ERS cooling upgrade. But you will also notice that we have a high inflation scenario for this season, which is going to make it more difficult for us to repeat what we did last season, going from the slowest car to the fastest car in less than half a season. But back to the upgrade, this will keep us at the top of the pecking order when it comes to the powertrain, and it will just do a standard development to make sure we get this one done first go with how expensive these upgrades will start becoming. To start this season, we have been busy with the development of the car in a hope to stay competitive and keep the momentum going that we had to end last season. Unfortunately, that is not going to be easy as we have our first look at the performance charts. Red Bull Ford go into the new season as the fastest car with McLaren very close behind him. Adrian Newey has worked some magic and thrown Aston Martin Honda up the charts ahead of Mercedes and just behind the Ferraris. Apex GP have fallen from fastest car now to the 6th fastest car and only just faster than the Haas Toyota, Williams and Alpine Mercedes. Racing Bulls Forwards and Audi Sport also look to have a long season ahead as they didn't make much progress in the off-season. As we now get ready for the first qualifying session down under in Australia, let's get into it.
And a warm welcome, everybody. We're here in the heart of Melbourne. It's Albert Park, and it's qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix.
It looks like the sun is trying to poke through the cloud cover here in Melbourne around the Albert Park circuit. We've got a little bit to do here. Our car performance obviously isn't going to be there too much, so we're going to be looking to try and get ourselves into Q3. I think that's going to be a good starting point.
Okay, I hope you're sitting comfortably in there, mate. We've got a sensor issue, and we're going to be stuck in here for a while as we try and fix it.
What a way to start qualifying here in Season 2 with a sensor issue. So we've been delayed getting out of the pit lane, and so we'll end our first and only flying lap here in qualifying 1, and we'll put it into 10th position with Charles Leclerc fastest in qualifying 1 by 800ths to Max Verstappen. Then it's Lando Norris in 3rd, 2/10 behind, myself in 10th, and knocked out in qualifying 1. It's Pierre Gasly by 200ths of a second. Our teammate Sonny Hayes, he's knocked out, so maybe we managed to outperform the car just a little bit. Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, Isaac Hadjar, and Gabriel Bortoleto not making it through to the second part of qualifying, where we will end our first flying lap here, and that will put us into 5th position. But now, as we start our final flying lap here with the dying seconds left of the session, you'll see that we've been knocked down to 8th position, and we make a mistake there at turn 4, costing us a fair bit of time. We were in the green, drops us down into the red for our Delta. We'll finish the lap there with a purple middle sector, and that will keep us in 9th position. But crucially, we have now made it to the shootout with Max Verstappen fastest in qualifying 2 by 10th to Lewis Hamilton. Then it's Fernando Alonso in 3rd, 600ths behind Lewis, and then myself in 9th, 9/10ths behind. Knocked out in qualifying 2 is Russell by 500ths to his own teammate Nico Hulkenberg. Oliver Behrman, Franco Colapinto, Paul Aaron, and Liam Lawson not making it to the shootout here in Albert Park, and we lock up at the end of the DRS straight there, and that has going to cost us a lot of time. It was a purple middle sector, so we're absolutely flying in that middle sector. Unfortunately, we just messed it up there, and so that's going to cost us a lot of time. So are we going to be able to improve from 10th position? We used 2 sets of tyres in the last session, and so we only had the 1 set here, and that will put us in 9th. So I guess it's not too bad considering the mistake, but it could have definitely been better. Max Verstappen starts off the new season with a pole position ahead of Lando Norris, last year's title rivals, on the front row once more, and then it's Leclerc in third, with Alonso showing the Aston Martin Honda has some 1-lap pace.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula 1 World Championship. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit, 3.28 miles around, with the streets making for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 14 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Piastri, Antonelli, Ocon, Pearce, and Alex Albon, Russell, Hulkenberg, Ollie Behrman, and Colapinto, Aaron, Lawson, Pierre Gasly, and Sonny Hayes, Sainz, Stroll, Hadja, and Gabriel Bortoleto rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. And joining me in the commentary box this afternoon, the First Lady of World Motorsports, Naomi Schiff. As much as I like testing, and I do love testing, and I've really enjoyed the build-up here and all the speculation, I really want to see some action. And finally today, we get some proper action on the track.
This is always such an exciting time in the season. First of all, it's the first time they'll be racing their new cars. So that's always an exciting thing for drivers to look forward to. But also, they've had a long time off during the winter break. So it's about dusting the cobwebs off, getting the rust off of their bones, and really getting their elbows out there and having some fun.
All right, let's have a quick radio check, please. Radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Alrighty, for today's strategy, we're sticking with the 1-stop for the Australian Grand Prix, starting on the mediums and then pitting on lap 13 for the hards. Last year, we could have got a 2nd place, but ended up in the wall with a tyre failure. So today, let's redeem ourselves, as it's 5 red lights, and we're away for Season 2 here in Australia, and it is a pretty good starter, but a look at Ocon in that Haas Toyota. He goes down the inside, and we're currently 3 wide with Kimi Antonelli and Ocon. We sweep around the both of them, and that gets us now up into 7th position. And are we going to be able to take advantage of any other overtakes possibly here on this opening lap? It doesn't look like we're going to be able to, but in front of us, it's Lando Norris leading the way. He's taken that away from Max Verstappen off the line. The 2 Ferraris of Leclerc, then Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Piastri, then ourselves find ourselves in 7th position. Then the 2 Mercedes of Russell, Antonelli, and then Ocon rounds out the top 10 in the first lap. Fast forwarding to lap 4 of the Grand Prix, it's kind of been a little bit of holding your station. Everyone's just trying to find whereabouts we sit in race pace, as Max Verstappen takes the lead back away from Lando Norris, and now he could be under attack from Charles Leclerc, because remember, there's going to be that 2nd DRS straight after the fast chicane there. So if you don't have the DRS, you could not lose the 1 position, but multiple positions, especially going into that hard braking zone. As now Franco Colapinto, the new driver for Red Bull, he wasn't on the grid in full time last season. He took over from Logan Sargent in the Williams, and now finds himself with a full-time seat here in 2026, and he finds himself inside the points now in his Red Bull Ford. We get our first objective of the season, and we need to keep George Russell behind us. It is going to be absolutely crucial. We have to try and maintain our position. Lap 1 is going to be absolutely crucial here in this season, especially if our car is going to be a little bit underpowered compared to what we're used to. We're going to have to take advantage of those safety car restarts. We're going to have to take advantage of the red flags, the race starts. We're going to have to try and get all of that absolutely nailed, and then it's going to be all about defense. So we have to make sure that we can stay ahead of George Russell and maintain our 7th position. And rounding the final corner onto lap 9, about to start lap 10, we'll complete our objective, but also George Russell comes into the lane quite early. Remember, we're going to lap 13, so this is about 4 or so laps earlier than expected. So is George Russell maybe on a 2-stopper? We'll have to see how that strategy plays out, because at least on my box there, for race strategy, it didn't look like it was going to be too good, as our team radio's gone. So it's a new season, same issues though for Apex GP. Remember, at the start of last season, we were having the issues with the radio where we would just lose Mark completely, and it seems to be that we have lost him once again as Lando Norris takes the lead back away from Max Verstappen, as we've got a 3-car breakaway here. So it's Norris, Verstappen and Charles Leclerc battling away here for the lead of the Grand Prix onto lap 13. Max Verstappen, he's looking to try and take that lead back away from Lando Norris, and he will do it successfully going down the inside at turn 4, but that could now leave him vulnerable down the back straight along the palm trees, along Albert Park Lake, and that will be interesting to see how that's going to play out. We get our next objective though to set a fast lap time, which is going to be a good time to actually try and do it, because we're going to be on our in lap. You can see that we've got the tyre wear marker though, so we're not going to actually get the objective completed, because it'll get postponed when we do come into the pit lane. But it's a bit of motivation to try and make sure we do set an absolute rapid in lap, because with the pace that Colapinto's been showing, he could very well overcut us or even undercut us if we do not do a good job. It's a very slow stop for Max Verstappen, and has he lost track position? He has. He now drops himself down to 3rd position, so he's lost out to both Norris and Leclerc in that slow pit stop. We've now come into the lane behind the leaders, and we've now gone onto our hard compound tyres, and it looks like Colapinto has continued on, so we don't have to. So at the moment we're going to be battling it out for an overcut, but on the exit it's going to be our teammate Sonny Hayes holding us up. He sweeps around our outside, and now we're going to be stuck behind him until we reach the back straight here, where we can use a bit of DRS. We're going to use some of our battery, and that is going to be us now up into 12th position ahead of our teammate who's on the slower, worn medium compound tyres. He now pulls into the pit lane. Is that going to cause us issues? No, it doesn't. We still manage to stay ahead of Franco Colapinto, and that is going to be P9 for now, with a couple of others still needing to come into the lane, especially one of George Russell. He currently sits in 7th position, but he has to make one more pit stop. I do not think those mediums will be making it to the end of this Grand Prix. And no, is that an issue? Oh, it's an issue with the ERS. So our ERS is currently stuck to none. And this is definitely not one of the circuits where we can have that happen, because we've got not 1, not 2, but there's 3 DRS zones that now we're going to be an absolute sitting duck, exactly the same way that Lando Norris currently feels as he gets swept around the outside. Max Verstappen now gets himself up to the 3rd position. Kimi Antonelli currently leads the Grand Prix, but he's yet to make his pit stop for today's race, as Lewis Hamilton gets himself now up into 7th position ahead of George Russell, who's starting to face the tyre wears on those mediums. He will have to make another pit stop. You can see that we're gaining pretty rapidly on him, 3.6 seconds now the gap to him, as we get our next objective to use up some ERS. So we've got it back. It was only offline for about a lap and a half, but we've got our ERS back. But you can see that we had about a 2.5 second lead to Colapinto. That is now down to only 0.2 of a second, as Charles Leclerc gets himself now ahead of Kimi Antonelli, and he'll come into the lane to complete his 1 compulsory pit stop in today's Grand Prix. Norris now gets himself back ahead of Max Verstappen. But yeah, now we've got that ERS back, we can try and defend it from Franco Colapinto, who's been looking pretty good. At the moment, we're being able to hold him in our DRS without losing too much time. But yeah, we currently sit in 7th position with George Russell eventually coming in for that 2nd pit stop that he's got, and we do manage to use the ERS for the 1.4 seconds they wanted each lap as we now start lap 21 of this Grand Prix. We are going into the dying stages, but behind us, Oliver Behrman, he's battling it out with Carlos Sainz in the Williams, and he's got another Williams in front of us, but that's a massive plume of smoke coming out of the back of his Haas Toyota. And is this going to be the first retirement of the 2026 season? And it is going to be. Oliver Behrman in the Haas Toyota will pull off to the side of the track in the final sector, and that is going to be enough to cause our first safety car of this new season. And you can see that I'm just currently checking where we would rejoin if I was to do a pit stop. I would lose too much track position if I was to come into the lane. It's now Nico Hulkenberg under the safety car. He's also out of the session. So what has happened to the Audi here in their first event? The Audi Sport is going to retire, and how is he going to do this? So he gets overtaken under the safety car, and he was traveling a bit slowly, and he's just going to pull it off to the side of the road. So I'm guessing he's had some sort of technical failure there to warrant him to pull off to the side of the track there. And taking a look now at the order as we are still currently neutralised under the safety car. Leclerc leads the way ahead of Verstappen, and then Norris rounding out the podium. Then it's Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, myself in 7th position. Franco Colapinto, Kimi Antonelli, and Esteban Ocon, the lone Haas Toyota, rounds out the top 10. Then it's Russell, Gasly, the 2 Williams of Albon, Sainz, our teammate Hayes, and Stroll, Bortoletto, and the 2 Racing Bulls of Lawson and Hadjar. Then Paul Aaron is currently last on the road in 20th position in his Aston Martin Honda. As now we round the final corner, and it's green flag. We're racing once again here in Australia, going on to lap 24, so it's a 5-lap dash to the end. We're using a heap of battery to go down the inside of Fernando Alonso, and that is now going to put us now up into 6th position. I've mentioned earlier that we need to take advantage of these safety car restarts. Our car definitely does not have the pace at the moment to be battling it up with the Ferraris, with the Red Bulls, with the McLarens, and so we need to try and make sure that we can capitalize everywhere we can. It's now Colapinto gets himself ahead of Fernando Alonso, and so he'll look to try and chase us down once again. The gap 1.5 seconds between us, but we're just still within the DRS of this lead battles. Verstappen rounds the outside there of Charles Leclerc, and that is now going to demote him to P2. And look, here we are. We're now taking advantage of all those guys slowing it up as they were going side by side through the fast chicane. We go to the outside of Lewis Hamilton, and he'll look to try and go down the inside once again, but we'll continue to sweep it around the outside, continue to go side by side. It'll give us now finally the inside for the penultimate corner, and that is us now up into 5th position in today's Grand Prix. And we've got a couple of laps left as now ahead of us. Could this be another time that we could try and capitalize and get ourselves another position, because they're battling super hard, and this has now allowed Verstappen to pull away 2 seconds into the lead. So has Verstappen now checked out and signed his contract for today's race win? We'll have to find out as we continue another around the outside move, and that is now up into 4th position now. Can we get ourselves a cheeky podium here? A podium was definitely not going to be on the cards as Verstappen now rounds the penultimate corner around the final corner, and he's going to claim victory here, and he'll continue his title defense here in Australia to win. But we have a snap of oversteer. We've hit the wall. We've got front wing damage. Are we going to be able to hold on to our 4th position? We've got Piastri hounding the back of us, and we do just hold on to our 4th position, and that got so much more stressful than it needed to be. Riding on board with us for a bit of a replay here, going around the final corner, all was well, and then we just got a small snap of oversteer, and by the time I corrected it, the wall was pretty much already there in front of us. Behind us was Oscar Piastri, and yeah, we just kind of really awkwardly bounced off of it and blocked him.
There was no Verstappen. Max Verstappen, he takes victory.
To take the win at the first race of the season, now that is important. You get straight in to your competitor's head, and they now know that you are the one to beat.
Well, it's been a long wait for many of our drivers, but the wait is always worth it. Bring them out to the awaiting crowd. It's time for our podium celebrations. But there can only be one on the top step. Your number 1, Max Verstappen.
Well, how was that for a season opener for Season 2? Verstappen winning the opening race of the season. He is joined on the podium by Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. We tried to battle it out with Leclerc at the end there, but on the last corner, we just had that snap of oversteer, and it pushed us. We pushed those tyres a long way, and I think they just gave out at that final corner. Luckily, even with the damage and hitting the wall, we still managed to hold on to that 4th position, and the rest of the top 10 after myself was Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, Franco Colapinto, Fernando Alonso, Kimi Antonelli, and George Russell rounding out the top 10 with our teammate Sonny Hayes in 16th position, and Nico Hulkenberg and Oliver Behrman, the only non-finishers in today's race, with Max Verstappen leading the Drivers' Championship by 7 points to Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc sits in 33 points behind Lando, myself in 4th, 3 points behind Charles, and Sonny Hayes, our teammate, is in 16th after no points in today's disappointing race, considering I was, knocking on the door of a podium and he was down in 16th. Red Bull Ford lead the Constructors' Championship with Ferrari in 3rd, McLaren in 2nd, ourselves in 4th, and we're leading our Heated Drivers' Championship rivalry against Oscar Piastri. So this is going to be interesting. We have to get to 32 points in the championship to win this one, and hopefully we can do it, but we definitely don't have an advantage as we did last season with the car. Our driver ratings, our experience to level 84, racecraft to level 86, awareness to level 87. Our pace has gained some points, our focus to level 84 for an overall rating of level 88, and our driver recognition has remained at 54% after the first round of Season 2. And that is going to do it all for this episode. We've got a small season break before the next one, where we head to the Hard Rock Stadium for the Miami Grand Prix. So I'll see you then for part 26.